Hey everyone, how are you doing? Good. How are you feeling? Nice. I'm super excited to talk to you today about how to build a developer first startup. But why even build for developers, right? Why is this a good idea in the first place? I think for many of us, when we started our careers, we used to be able to influence purchase decisions, but not necessarily authorize them, which is no longer the case. Developers have way more uh, influence in the process of purchasing software overall, right? Used to be the case where top down, like would come in, the execs would tell exactly, hey, here's what you need to use, and then you just go and execute that. Today, there's way more ownership. You go in, you're able to input on the decision, or even just swipe the credit card and start using things like Supabase. And there are this evolution of developer tools. I came up with these different generations, but you could tell there's like a difference at every single one of these points. In the beginning, developer tools were nice to have. They were beautiful because they enabled collaboration, but it wasn't a thing that everyone would use, right? You had companies like JetBrains or Twilio or GitHub starting up or Cloudflare starting up, and those are great, but not everyone had access to them. Then the second wave came in, and now it was much cheaper. Now everything was API driven, and it started to become this mission critical workload that you couldn't just survive without it. Auth0 came in, Algolia, Stripe, Elastic, and so many others. Then the third generation came in, and now things started to become even more seriously, and it was just so easy to integrate. Everything was plug and play, right? If you wanted to use Retool, you just get started, you're done. Netlify, Vercel, all of these companies, they opened the door to something that was really magical. And I feel like we're living through this next generation, and there's just some things about this next generation that I feel like are really unique. The first one is the time to market. I think we can all build stuff much faster than we could before. And it's not like the world is API first anymore. I truly believe we're living in an SDK first world, which means we're able to get things that are tailored to the ecosystems and platforms and languages that we all love. And there's one characteristic across all of these different products. They're all obsessed with developer happiness. You go to Clerk, you go to LiveBlocks, you go to Rayaway, you go to WorkOS, Mintlify, BrowserBase, you go to Resend. It feels like that was built for you versus someone else. But how do you even go about creating developer happiness? Like, how do you even approach it? I separated like a few ideas and the things I believe make that happen. So the first thing is to focus on one feature, just one crucial core use case. I remember when I first went to buy my first car, and that was a pretty interesting experience because I remember driving through the streets of LA and trying to find a place to park. And then I saw those signs of like, oh my gosh, I don't even know, like, can I park or not? Like, what's really happening here? So everything was like so confusing. There's just so many rules for me to process. And there's actually like a UX principle behind that. There's this Hicks law that says that the time it takes for you to make a decision increases with the number and the complexity of the choices. So the more options you have, the longer your reaction time will be. So it's no surprise that when you go to a product like Azure, you're like overwhelmed with options. There's so much stuff happening, right? And that's true for all the major cloud providers, right? There's just so much happening. Heroku did something beautiful when they were launching their buttons marketplace, that you would just go, even though there are many options, you could just come in. If you just want to deploy Ghost, for example, you click in one button, you follow the steps, and you're done. You're in production. So that kind of experience makes something really special. I remember as a developer myself, I wanted to just send an email. That was my mentality. I would go to SendGrid, I would go to Mailgun, Postmark, and I'm like, I just need to find this one API. I just want to send an email, and I couldn't. It was just so much complexity around me. So that's when we're like, okay, what if we could just build one email API as simple as possible? You can just send with React. Let's see how it goes. And that's how we started Recent, just focusing on one core principle and not just an overwhelming amount of options. The second part is about this builder versus user dilemma, right? Because when we're building something, sometimes as a user, I went to the dentist, and as a buyer, I actually feel like going to the dentist is a great idea, right? It's good for your health. It's amazing. I'm happy to pay a dentist. But as a user, I absolutely hate it. And that's the difference, right? With buyers, the things that they see and the things that they care are most of the times completely different from what users actually perceive and what users actually care. I'm reminded about this story that happened in LA where the school district purchased $1.3 billion on new iPads. And then later on, they found out that only one teacher out of like 200 plus classrooms was using them. So this is where the conflict between what the buyers really care and what the users really care happens. I remember going to the Prisma website, and it was so beautiful, this previous website they had, where they only had 2 call to actions: npm install, try in 5 minutes, right? As a developer, I feel at home in that kind of environment. In contrast, you go to a place like HashiCorp and you have read customer story, request a demo, contact sales. Like that's not the flow that will take me from 0 to 1. This is a flow that will probably take me weeks or months to get from 0 to 1. Same happened when I was just trying out, like, okay, let me go to Mailgun, and there's a schedule a demo button, and you have to go through that flow. Or you say, you know what, let me just sign up for myself. And then there's a payment or a credit card flow, and they will have to fill out all these forms. These are things that take the users away from just getting started, right? When we're building the Recent website, we're like, okay, what are the little things we can do to show that we care, show that this is for you as a product? So when you go to the website today, you can open it right now. We have this call to action, integrate. Depending on the time, it's going to show integrate this morning, integrate this afternoon, or integrate tonight. And if it's past Friday, 5 p.m., it's integrate this weekend. So just a very little thing, probably no one cares, and no one will notice that the light in the button actually changes depending of the time, right? These are details that just send a hidden message that this is for you. One other extremely silly thing we did was on the dashboard, you go in, you have a sidebar, the icons will be animated. That was so silly, and everyone would tell us like, oh, this is awesome, I can tell you guys care. So that's the difference of a product that as you are building something, that you have like those small surprises that adds up. That adds up to a product that people love, that they praise, that they will tell their friends about it. And the opposite is also true, right? When you go to a product and the CTA is not clear, and you finally sign up, and then you don't get the email. It takes 5 minutes to confirm your account, and then you go through the onboarding, it doesn't work. You go to the docs, there's a typo. That's a product that you're not going to trust, that you're going to churn, or the worst that it can happen for any brand is a product that you're going to be indifferent to. That's the worst thing you could have. It's better to have people hating your brand than not caring about our brand. So there are products that are very well known for being sales-led, right? Like Jira, for example. Everyone loves to hate on Jira and tell how like, oh, this is so bad and so on. And then there are products that are product-led that people love it. Notion, Linear, they praise for how they care about the users, right? So you have this dilemma. One is not inherently better than the other, right? I'm sure folks at Atlassian are not complaining about the revenue. But at the same time, it's a matter of like, what is the company you want to build? What is the product that's best for you as a founder too, the things you feel connected to? The other part is about being open source friendly. And I want to tell you my story with open source. My first open source project was called jQuery Boilerplate. Anyone remembers jQuery here? You know what that even is? Okay, great. This was a way for you to create jQuery plugins. Then I launched it, and then Smashing Magazine picked it up, and they tweeted, and people started to know about the project. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. People are like opening issues, and I was so excited. Like, oh my gosh, I built something that people actually care. And then I got this pull request saying, everything is wrong, so delete all of it. This way you can start over and do it again. You can imagine how I felt when I got that PR. I was like, whoa, what's happening? This is crazy. This person who opened the PR was super influential in the JavaScript community back then. So I didn't know what to do. Eventually, my friend Adi Osmani got together with me. We started like rebuilding. I actually accepted this PR. And yeah, the diff, if you open the diff, like it was just removing all the files and deleting everything. But, you know, sometimes the open source community can be rough. Steve Ballmer is famous for saying that Linux is a cancer that attaches to everything it touches and so on, which is funny enough, right? Coming from a Microsoft CEO and looking at what Microsoft is doing now. There's VS Code, who was built by Microsoft. There's GitHub, built by Microsoft. NPM was acquired by Microsoft. And Microsoft, if you think about it, owns the most popular code editor, the biggest package manager. All of our NPM packages are running there, and the largest code repo and code community. So the game flips, and you can tell like how crucial a strong open source strategy is for companies of all sizes. You go to Vercel, of course, there's Next.js. That's the biggest thing that they anchor, but they have plenty of open source projects on top of that. When we started, that was our thing. Like, we're not going to be open source, but we're going to have an open source component. And we built React Email, which was this library of components that were pre-made, that were beautiful for you to just get started building email templates, because emails are super hard. Even today, if you want to build like a rounded corner button, that doesn't work on Outlook and Gmail and Yahoo Mail the same. So we built React Email to solve that problem. And that was our master plan. I remember just writing that Notion doc with those three things when we started. Build an open source project related to email. That was React Email. Gain traction in respect in that ecosystem. Launch a SaaS to help people to send emails using React. And that was recent. So highly recommend thinking about how you can layer open source on top of everything that you do. And then once you do that, how can you be embedded into the open source ecosystem? So for every single language, we have examples for every single framework and every variation of that framework even. So the more you can be embedded and have like GitHub repos for each one of those things, the better. Now, charging is also important. And for us as developers, that's not something that comes natural. Another story, I remember traveling a lot when I was younger. And I remember traveling from Germany to Spain one day. And I started to feel really sick in the plane. I'm like, oh man, what's happening? Like, there's something going wrong in my body. I was alone. And then at some point, I was feeling so much pain that I just had to call the flight attendant. I was like, hey, can you just, I just need help. So then they landed in Madrid. I was taken in an ambulance out of the airplane, and then they take me to the hospital. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy, but in 2 hours I'll be better, and then I'll leave, and it's fine. Turns out I spent 3 weeks in that hospital, and that was a crazy experience, right? But the craziest part wasn't just staying in a hospital in a foreign country. The craziest part was one day I told my coworkers, hey, I'm here, don't have anything to do. Can you just bring my laptop so I can do something, talk to my family, do some work? And then they bring my laptop, and then I'm just like coding. I'm happy again. This is fine. Then one day I leave the room just for a second. Then I get back. My computer was stolen. someone entered the hospital room, took the computer, and went off. I was like super sad. Oh my gosh, this is the worst thing a human being can do. But then I call again my coworker and I say, "Hey, can you bring a new computer? This is what happened. I know it sucks, but hey, I need to talk to my family and so on." And then I do what every developer does when they get a new computer. I'm setting up my code editor, and I'm like, you know what? Doesn't make sense to have like different themes in different code editors. So let me create mine. So I created this thing called Dracula. Does anyone know what Dracula is? Oh, nice. So I built for Sublime Text, for Hyper, for iTerm. Hyper didn't exist. For Vim and so on. And Dracula now has like 400 something themes. So there are ports for every single editor you can imagine. Only on VS Code, there are 9.4 million installs. I never imagined that a project created in a hospital would lead to such thing. But I remember when I saw Dracula growing, I was like, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to learn more. And I want to learn more about sales and business and so on. So let me try to sell this, which is super hard to sell like 5 or 6 colors, right? But I was like, let me see if I can create Dracula Pro. That's how I position Dracula Pro, this package with these different themes that you can use and so on. And I just launched it to see what would that do. Dracula sold this. I just got that screenshot. It sold more than $400,000. This package of colors that you can go install on your cursor and your code editor. To me, that's absolutely wild to see a side project doing that impact, but it just shows the power of charging, because through charging, you get to learn exactly what people want versus guessing what's really important to users. So I highly recommend, if you're building anything, charging is the way to find the truth, which is hard to get. The other part is about integrating. So I don't know if the audio is going to work, but there's this quote from Bruce Lee, super famous. You've probably seen before, but let's play and see if we can hear it.
Your father's show
Right?
water.
It's okay. No worries. But it talks about like being shapeless and formless and be like water. That's how you want your product to be like water, to adapt to whatever the ecosystem wants. Stripe did a great job with like adding a Stripe experience inside the code editor, where you could try the webhooks and trigger test charges and so on. They know that you're already in the code editor, so why not build an experience that's native to that? Supabase did an amazing job when they came up with the type generation. So you would get your database and then it generates the whole TypeScript schema for you. This is just amazing, right? Same for the OpenAPI spec. A lot of companies these days, they offer like Postman collections for your API. So again, you're already using Postman, so why not just have all of your endpoints in the same place? So there's this, the Jacob's law, which tells that users will transfer the expectations they have built around one product to the other. So you want to leverage that to your benefit. So if you're building a developer tool, like imitating some of the UX patterns that GitHub has, for example, it's a good idea. Users are already used to the concept of PRs and organization. So you want to lean on those concepts. I remember when Supabase was essentially like changing the limits and changing how they would operate with their SMTP server, and how they were like struggling with all these abusers coming in and trying to take advantage of that. I saw that and I was like, wow, this is great. Let's see if we can help them. Let's build integrations, a marketplace thing with Supabase. So went ahead, built that for 2 weeks, and we just created this flow inside Recent where you connect with Supabase, it goes through the OAuth flow, and then you just choose all your Supabase projects, and then you can go and then add an API key that's associated with your project, And then once you have that API key, you're ready to configure like your sender name, and you're good to go. You configure SMTP in like 30 seconds using Supabase and resend. When I was building that, because the whole team was busy and there was no one to build those things, Supabase was coming up. I remember building that feature myself, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool, but maybe 100 people will use, I don't know. Eventually, Paul started to promote and talk about it too, and recommend Resend as a SMTP provider. And I was just chatting with the team recently, and they said that all the active Supabase projects that have custom SMTP, 39% of them use Resend. This was a project that was just like one of the bets that you do when you're building something new. And it was a bet that played out because we were integrating with others. So I highly recommend whatever you're building to think about what are the integrations that I can do and leverage that for you to grow. And generating momentum is a big part of building a startup, because what you want to do is to keep, the machine going. When we're just coming out of YC, I remember being very afraid of opening this product to everyone. So we had a wait list and we were just onboarding people every week. So we had about like 140 new signups every week. And I was happy with that. I was learning from those 100 people coming in every week. And then our YC partner, Diana, she said, hey, Zeno, you're moving too slow. This is not going to work. Like you got to figure something better. So we're like, okay, let's open this to everyone. So we announced it that, hey, now this is open to everyone and you can just start using Resend. And from that point on, this is a chart from 2023 to, just 2023 actually. And the difference from the moment we were just like behind a wait list to the moment where we opened to the public. So the reality is that if you're building something, you just gotta put whatever you're building in the hands of users sooner than you think. If you think like, oh, I have to build this one thing for next month, how can you make it the next 3 weeks or the next 2 weeks or tomorrow? What would it take to launch it tomorrow? How can you make that happen? And once you start going through these thought exercises, you're going to be surprised by the amount of things and the amount of scope you can actually cut to deliver things to users. I love this tweet from Kenneth. He talks about how for startups, momentum is key. And that's the beauty of building a startup, right? Like if you just go through a linear path, you're probably not going to get there. But with momentum, you can actually do something. For me, the best analogy for that is a heartbeat. So if you're building a startup, you want to have like small bumps to show that you're alive. And then every day you're posting on Twitter, and then every week you're launching a change log. Every 2 weeks you're launching a customer story. Every 3 months you're doing a launch week. Those are the big peaks, and that's what keeps you alive. Those are the things that they compound those activities. Of course, there's no one better than Supabase when it comes to launch weeks. I shouldn't be talking about it here. They know better than anyone. They really promoted that concept, and there's so many launch weeks happening now. And we did our first one in 2023, and we saw the impact not only externally but internally. Because when you have a date and you're pushing the team towards a launch, it just rallies everyone to that same goal. And we kept learning, iterating. We built like, okay, now let's create these fancy landing pages to promote these launches. And let's compare the difference between the first one and the second one. What did well, what didn't? And here are just some of the learnings. We ran like 4 launch weeks already, and we're doing the 5th one in a month. And we learned that anticipation is key, because if you're trying to build something to the public, you want everyone to be engaged and like looking forward to that moment. You also want to set the tone that, okay, this is going to be big. So your first day, if it's a week launch, then people will know the rest will be weak. Today, if you just do a launch week and it's the same as everyone else, no one will care. So it has to be visually appealing, or it has to have a story behind it. And you should definitely lean with strong announcements. If you don't have a strong thing to talk about, it's better not even to do it. Uh, I love the this heartbeat analogy because uh, Tyler has this amazing quote. He says that if you consider how impossible the startup journey is, and it's really impossible, it's really insane if you think about it. It stands to reason that only through intensity can something be created out of thin air that grows to be worth billions of dollars in just a few years. Startups are dead by default. So if that's true, if startups are dead by default, you gotta find a way. You gotta funnel the energy somehow to create that momentum. And then being developer obsessed. That's the other thing too. I don't know if you all are familiar with this documentary, super popular here in Silicon Valley, so you probably already know. It's called Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and it's about this sushi master that has a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and he started working from the age of 7. And it's really intense when you go through his journey because even at age 85, when he's recording the documentary, he talks about how he still haven't found and achieved perfection. But that's the journey. Yeah, you're always building towards that. But even after making sushi for like 6 years or more, you still haven't found that. So when you think about what you're building, right? Think about all the pieces that goes into it. Um, you can build something that works, like a design that works. You go to Braintree, for example. It works. It's a website like any other. I'm sure there's a lot of people using their API. But you can do design that actually inspires people. And that's what you get when you go to Stripe, right? You go to their website. The first thing you feel is like, wow, I wish I could build something as good as this, or let me try to build something great as Stripe did. There's changelog that works. You go to most companies' changelog, you see the changes. It serves the purpose, right? This is a changelog. It communicates that. But can you do a changelog that inspires? That's what you get when you go to Raycast's changelog. Not only it's visually appealing, there's a lot of momentum, but you see that the team is actually shipping stuff and making the product better every single week. There's recruiting that works. You go to any careers page in any website like PayPal, you see all the roles, you apply, no big deal, right? That's the status quo. But there's recruiting that inspires. You go to Plaid, they used to have this, they don't have it anymore, but you could apply by an API call. How cool is that to submit your resume in a post request? That's really awesome. So there's this concept that users will often perceive aesthetically pleasing design as design that's more usable. So it's no coincidence. You go to Stripe, you go to Vercel, you go to Raycast, hopefully you go to Recent, and you feel like, wow, there's so much care in the design. I imagine all the other things they do on the back end because there's just so much care here. So this is a strategy. This is not an accident. There's this Maslow hierarchy of needs that's super popular that talks about the different needs that a human has, right? Starts with the physiological needs, safety, belonging. So the bottom of the pyramid is like you need food, water, and sleep. Those are the basic things you need as a human. Then there's safety, housing, financial safety. Once you feel, that you have those things, now you can start thinking about belonging and thinking about friends, relationship, community, how those things are in place. Then the esteem in your community, how you're treated by others, respected by others. And then once you achieve those things, now you're at peace. Now you can innovate. Now you can actually do new things. I actually believe there's a developer experience version of this too that starts with the functionality, the base thing. If you don't have a REST API, if you're not returning your objects in JSON instead of XML, or like if you're not following the basic protocols and the basic functionality, then like you don't have the basis. You have the functionality, but the API is down or the API takes like 2 seconds to return. That's also not ideal. So you need that foundation really strong. Then you can start thinking about docs and SDKs and demos and change logs. How can you make them great? Then you move up to the CLI. You think about open API specs, your webhooks, versioning for webhooks. And then you get to the point where like, okay, how can we be creative? How can we offer something different? And if you're building a developer first startup, and if you ever settle, you're just doing it wrong, because building for builders is probably one of the hardest things you can do, regardless of who you're building to. And then the last thing is just focusing on what you can control. There's really nothing you can do outside of what's in front of you. So I'd like to tell you a story that happened early 2024. Recent was growing up. People were starting to use Recent more. And the team was very, very small. We had like 6 people or something. The team was really, really small. But we already had a lot of production load. So then one night, my co-founder calls me. This was like around 9 p.m. And he said like, oh, I'm running a migration script and so on. So he just started running that migration script. And then suddenly we were like, oh, what happened? We were building this, and then the production database started to become empty. So we're like, oh, okay, there's something happening here. And then he calls me. We're like, okay, let's figure out what's going on together. What is this thing happening? So we're like, no worries. We're using Supabase. They have backups. We're good. So we're like desperate. So we just go super fast to the UI. We select the latest backup and we click restore. Like, okay, we're good. We're safe. Now let's just wait for the restore. We announce it on Twitter. We open a status page. We talk about the incident, and then people start noticing the incident. So they started to tell us like, hey, this is impacting us super badly. I'm already moving to someone else. And we're like super sad that this is happening. But, now we're just in this waiting mode and replying mode on support and social. So from the moment, this was like 10 p.m., the moment we started to restore, we just kept waiting. So then 1 hour later, still restoring. 2 hours later, still restoring. Keep in mind, we had like multiple terabytes of data in this database. Then 6 hours later, finally, it's back. We are super stressed. Everyone is like just super mad at us. 6 hours outage. This is unbelievable. This is crazy. So disappointing. I'm migrating. And we're like, okay, at least we're back after 6 hours. And then I go to the website, I go to the database, still offline. What's happening? We go, and then we're talking to the team, and then we figure out the moment the database was, the migration script ran, there was another snapshot of a backup. And Vacuum, for those who know Postgres here, Vacuum didn't run, so the database was still the same size. But we restored an empty database. That moment, I was like, this is the worst time of my life. I just want to cry. This is the worst thing ever. But we just gotta, try to go online again. So we go to the other backup, not the latest that was empty, the other backup, and we restore again. So then hopefully the Supabase team helped us like really speed up that one, but still 12 hours later, we were back. So everything was normal. But people were like, this is the end of Recent. This is it. There's nothing else. And that's how I felt back then. I was like, yeah, this was great. What a run. 1 year. We made it. But now let's just go back home and that's it. That moment, we felt like this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. But just like with software, like you have your package, your little world, and these are the things you can control. There are all these other things that you can't. And we just tried to focus on what we could control. So we were a very, very small team, And then we just kept, leveling up, growing. The team was growing, hiring great people. Now we're almost like 30 people. And it just feels unbelievable to even have a booth here, to have like so many people coming to us and saying, hey, I use Supabase and Recent together, and it's just great. And every day, that's what we try to do. Just 1% better every single day, which is all we could do. Just recently, we crossed 500,000 users, which feels unbelievable. I know that because when I go to my Supabase off page, and I can tell like now more than 800,000 users using Recent. Warner Brothers, HBO Max, Raycast, Fall AI, Decathlon, Gumroad, logos that I absolutely love as a consumer myself are using Recent. A24, my favorite movie studio, is using Recent. Last year, we raised $18 million, our Series A. And when I look back, I'm like, man, that could have been the end of it. Or even before, we could have not even started this. But that moment just taught me like, all you got to do is keep moving on, right? And we could have just not started Recent. We could have just said like, yeah, these are the options that the market has. No one needs a new email API, right? But we felt that there was something there, something new. And we could have started tomorrow. We could have started next week. But what I would recommend to you is like, start now or tomorrow at the hackathon, if anything. So I hope this was helpful. And yeah, thank you so much.